So, you need a suit, eh?
Yeah, I got a commemoration dinner tonight, and I know absolutely zero about suits. And I need one.
Don't worry, I got you covered.
Hey, I'm Levi Peters, and this is Demetrius Levi. And today, it's all about suits. Part 2. Now we come to another major aspect of the suit, and that's how many buttons there are. A single button suit is more reserved for tuxedos, and it's more fashion forward. The 2-button suit is a standard, and it's what I would recommend for a single-breasted suit. Then you have the 3-button suit, which is fine, but it's one that I personally just stay away from. For most body types, they don't complement it very well, and sometimes they can look like a crazy lab scientist coat. But not always, and because of their shape, they look really good on taller dudes. So if you're a taller guy, you can go with a 3-button suit and it'll look fine usually. Then you have, in the middle, a 2.5-button suit. And this is pretty much like a 2-button suit, but inside the lapel there's an extra hole and an extra button, so it can be used as a 3-button suit, but generally it functions and looks like a 2-button suit. Now I said earlier that I'd recommend a 2-button suit for a single-breasted suit, and what I mean by that is it's just one of the 2 major types of suits out there, single-breasted and double-breasted. While single-breasted is by far the most common and the standard, double-breasted is so amazing, and you can make a statement just by wearing it alone. It's a fantastic option if you want to take that. I recommend it. And it used to be more formal, but now that's not always the case. They almost always have peak lapels and look best with them. Generally, the lapels are also wider, and it just looks better and more in proportion with the way the suit is shaped. And if it doesn't have wider lapels and they're skinny, it just doesn't look good. It throws the whole look off. And I definitely stay away from any double-breasted suits with notched lapels, especially skinny ones. To be honest, I'm not too sure if this would be the best option for your first suit, but if you want to go for it, do it. An important rule to know is which buttons to fasten, because oddly enough, you're not supposed to button all of them. Oh gee, that scared me. With a single button suit, easy, just that one. With a 2-button suit, you only fasten the top button, never the bottom one.
Wrong!
This is how you can tell someone knows what they're doing and has some knowledge on suits. If you implement this, you'll look like a pro, and it'll set you way away from the amateurs.
They're a bunch of fucking amateurs.
Now you might be thinking, why is there a button there if you're not supposed to use it? Well, not only does it look better when you don't use it because of the way suits are shaped now, but the story goes is that a king got too fat and he couldn't button the bottom button of his jacket. So everyone else started doing it out of respect or fashion because it was the king's or something like that.
Hey boys, hanging out? Yes.
With a 3-button suit, the rule is top button, sometimes middle, always bottom, never. Simple. With a double-breasted suit, the same rule applies. Just don't fasten the bottom button. Also, there's a button on the inside which you'll usually fasten as well. Also, it's recommended that you always keep your double-breasted suit buttoned because of its shape and how it has more fabric. It usually doesn't look as nice and clean when it's unbuttoned. But with all your suits, unbutton them when you sit down. On the topic of buttons, let's talk about the cuff buttons. So the less that there are, the more casual it is, and the more there are, the more formal it is. So 1 is the most casual, and around 4 is the most formal. They can also be spaced out, kissing, or stacked like these ones. Most of the time, they're not functional on cheaper suits, but generally more expensive suits will have functioning buttonholes. It's seen as a sign of quality. The story goes is that the buttons are there because doctors, when they would wear suits, they would unbutton them and roll up the sleeves during surgery. And I don't know if that story's BS or not, but that's what I've heard.
Who's the doctor here?
The shoulders should fit just right, because if they don't, it's almost impossible to tailor, and if you do, it'll cost you generally over $100. The Italians like the shoulders more on the soft side, and the English style is a little more rigid and broad. I personally like soft shoulders, but honestly, this has the perfect amount of padding for a suit that has it. It makes my shoulders appear a little broader, but it's not too much like some 80s suit.
They wear suits and ties!
Canvas is important. It's a stiffer material that's put inside the jacket, and it gives it the shape and more weight. Most suits are going to be half canvas with just the chest area being covered. Full canvas suits go throughout the whole entire thing, and it looks more uniform and pretty, but it's going to cost you a lot more. uncanvassed or unstructured suits are the most casual of them all, but they're the best for summer because they're thinner and they breathe a lot easier. The same thing goes for the lining. They can be fully lined, half lined, or even unlined. Unlined is the best for summer because, again, there's not as much fabric, so it's thinner and it can breathe easier. But also it's more expensive as the tailor has to make the stitching on the inside perfect because he can't hide the imperfections in the lining. Now for the back vents. There's 3 types: double, single, or none. Double looks the best and it makes it easier when you sit down. Single is okay, it's not that great in my opinion, and to me, none just doesn't look that great at all. I've rarely seen it actually look really good, if at all. If you see X's on the vents, that's just put there for shipping and handling, so when you get your suit, cut those off the threads before you wear it. Same thing goes if you have a logo right here, take it off. And while we're on the topic of tearing our clothes apart, make sure you tear the threads in your pockets. Some people think their pockets aren't functional, but they really are. All you have to do is put your finger in the pocket and there'll be an empty spot where there's no thread. Put your finger in there and then gently pull and the threading should come undone and you're good to go. Most suits will have a lapel buttonhole to put a boutonniere in. A lot are actually not functional, but in higher end suits, they generally are. Now for an extremely important part, the fabric. The fabric depends on the season. In the summer, 7 to 9 ounces is best suited, pun intended, for the summer. 14 to 19 ounces being the heaviest and the best suited for the winter months, and 11 to 12 ounces being right in the middle and good for year round. And this middle ground is the best option for your first suit. The most popular fabric is wool. This is great because it can be woven to be anything. It can be flannel, tweed, you name it. It's the best option you're gonna have for your first suit. Cotton is great for the warmer months and it's generally cheaper than wool, but it's more casual by its very nature and it tends to wrinkle more easily. Linen is perfect, in my opinion, and almost necessary during the hottest months of the year. But it does wrinkle a lot. But in my opinion, I think that's what gives it character. Because you know it's linen when you see the types of wrinkles and the way it looks, the texture. Oh, I love it. It's super casual and fun and very Italian. I'm a sucker for linen, so this is my favorite. This is for having fun or when you're out in the Saudi desert. Seersucker is another great summer fabric, and it's the same material that train conductors wear. Polyester suits are going to be your cheapest option, but there's also a few things to consider. Though they don't really wrinkle that much, they tend not to breathe very well, so they're not good for the warmest or the coldest months. And some of them tend to look really shiny and thus look cheap. If you're going to go for a polyester suit, get a wool or a cotton blend. It'll breathe a little better, it won't be as shiny, and it'll also be more durable, and it'll be easier to wear throughout the year. Now you'll see wool suits with a number saying Super 100, Super 110, 120, 200.
9,000! What?
That's the thread count, so the higher the number, the more fine, smooth, and lightweight the fabric is going to be. And because of that, it's gonna have a higher price point as well. If you're gonna wear suits more regularly, I always have a hard time saying that. It's best to leave the super wools for special events. Now for the patterns. There's some really cool patterns out there, but you want to stick with the traditional ones because you don't want to look like these guys.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
You have pinstripe, which is more classic. You have more fashionable ones like window pane, and you have Glen plaid like this, and a lot more. For your first suit, I recommend a solid colored suit. But if you want, you can go with something real subtle like this Glen plaid. From far, it looks like a solid suit, but when you get up close and you see all the details, then you can see the pattern. It's pretty cool. But all this information that I gave you is practically useless if you don't get this one thing right: the fit. This is where you can feel like $1,000,000 or not. You can have a super expensive suit like a Tom Ford or Xenia and have it fitted bad and it looks cheap. On the flip side, you can have a super cheap suit that costs you like 60 bucks, get it tailored, and you will look like you're wearing an expensive suit and you'll feel great. You'll feel like $1,000,000. Suits are meant to complement your body shape and make you look good. The fact that all these suits out today are like boxes just saddens me. This happened during the 50s and the 60s when suits started to become mass produced in America. Suits were worn less by the public, the public started getting a little more casual and just reserved suits for work, and that's how the business suit was born. And since they were mass produced, they needed to be boxy so that they could fit most body shapes. The problem is that it looks terrible. And this is a real big tragedy because I love suits. They used to be a man's regular clothing item that looked fashionable, but then they just became a work uniform. They all started to look the same and all the individuality got lost, which is fine for an office setting, I get it. But it's still sad that that's the public perception and the norm for most suits. Thankfully, people are starting to change and are starting to wear suits just for the fact that they're suits, and they're awesome.
Yeah, baby.
But back to the fit. So boxy is terrible, but just as bad and plain embarrassing is a tight suit. It pulls, and it looks like the buttons are about to burst, and they probably are. And it just looks way too small, because it is. This is a fad right now, and a bad one at that, because everything is just getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. But tight does not mean good. What you want to look for is fitted, which is normally on the slimmer side, but in general it's just going with your body shape. It's a second skin, basically. This just looks incredible, and more importantly, it makes you feel incredible. Classic fit is fine as well, and is usually seen on older gentlemen. The armholes are usually wider and not as high up like the more modern suits. It's a fine option as well, but personally, I think younger men look better in a more slim-fitting suit with the tighter armholes. It just complements their young physique. If you're a larger guy, a fitted suit will complement your body shape as much as it can. The same goes for skinny guys and muscular guys. If you're really muscular, I think it's even more important to nail the fit, because you really want to show off that awesome V shape that you got. You worked hard for it. But it's hard to find a suit that will fit you perfectly right off the rack, and that's why you should go to a tailor. It doesn't cost that much for alterations, or for most of them, depending on what's being altered. So it's totally worth it to go out there and get it altered. Oh, hold on, let me turn on some lights. It's getting dark in here. Doesn't look like I'm in a black hole or something. Now all this applies to the trousers as well. Just like in the Essential Pants video, for trousers, you want the fit to be clean and slim, not too tight and not too loose. There are also a few things to consider, and one of them is the length, which is called the break. A no break is where there's no crease from the fabric being draped around the shoe. It's cut right at the shoe or slightly higher. Crop trousers are definitely more fashion forward, so keep that in mind. They're not always going to be in style. A slight break is fine and it looks really clean. A half break is on the more classic side and it's a safe conservative choice. And then you have the full break, and in my opinion, I never liked it. It just looks really sloppy and it's all crunched up the fabric, and it just looks like you haven't tailored it. It looks really sloppy. So I'm not going to recommend it. In my opinion, a no break where the bottom of the pant is just kissing the top of your shoe looks the best in my opinion. It looks the cleanest, it leaves no creases, and it makes you appear slightly taller. If you don't like the look of a full break, then just go for a half break. Now you can also have your trousers cuffed or not, and this really doesn't matter, it's all up to personal taste. Now something has gone back in style which I used to hate, I dreaded them, but now I absolutely love them, and those are pleats. Now I know a lot of people think of the 80-year-old man when they think of pleats, but times have changed, and they're different now. They're not so weird looking and make your gut look super big like some Oompa Loompa. They're not only functional and leave more room when you sit down, but they also are classic and they add so much character to your pants. It's those little extra details, remember, that count. A few years ago, I would have said never, but now, since things are different, I say you can take them or you can leave them. Freaking light went out. Another one. You see what I gotta deal with? As much as I love Gurkha-style trousers, those are a more sartorial and fashionable item, and I'm not gonna recommend them for your first suit, even though they're my favorite. Absolutely. I'll cover those and pleats in a whole other video. Did I cover enough? Oh yeah, I feel like $1,000,000. And with all this knowledge, it'll be even easier when I get my next suit.
That's a good lad. Now hurry along and get going.
Oh, shoot, you're right. I don't have a watch.
Don't worry, we'll cover it in the next
Okay,
video.
great, thanks. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I covered pretty much all the basics. And yeah, it's just the basics. We have a whole lot more that we can talk about in the future, and we will. I had to put this into 2 parts because if I didn't, it would be like a half-hour long, and I don't want to put you guys through all that. And if you didn't know already, this is part of my Style Beginner course, which you can view right up here if you haven't already, and I recommend that you do. And if you like this video, it'd be great if you could leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And also, if you know someone who'd like this, share it with your friends. Spread the word. Also, hit that bell notification so that you'll actually receive notifications when I post the next video. That's pretty helpful. But before I leave, guys, leave a comment down below. What do you think is better, double-breasted or single-breasted suits? I don't know personally. I struggle between which one I like more, but I'd like to know what you guys like more because, as you all know, we're in this together. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Well, that's a lot better than that one after 4 hours of sleep and bags under my eyes the size of freaking golf balls. Ugh. And if you... Wait a minute.